My name is Sarah Scruggs. I am the Community Engagement Specialist at Harvard Employees Credit Union, and I'm so glad to have you here. And I'm thankful for the Work-Life Office for partnering with us on this session today about comparing award letters. To give you a little bit of background on myself before we get started, before joining the credit union just about 2.5 years ago now, I worked for an admissions office at my alma mater and recruited students and talked with them through their award letters, just like I'm going to be talking about today. So please know that I welcome any type of questions that I'm happy to help with. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find someone who can help you with that. And hopefully during this time today, we can answer a few of your questions for you, walk you through a few processes, and talk about award letters and college financing. So for today's webinar, we have gone ahead and muted everybody so that you all are able to hear me and continue doing whatever you need to do, whether that is eating some lunch or continue working, whatever you need to get done. I completely understand. But hopefully this doesn't hinder our conversation at all because we do have the Q&A feature on today. So I just want to make sure everybody knows what the Q&A feature is. So if you could just write in and let me know, are you here to learn about undergraduate college financing for maybe a student in your life? Or are you here to learn about graduate school financing? So if you could just let me know in the Q&A, it should be on the right-hand side of your screen or up at the top navigation, but you'll see the Q&A feature. So if you could just let me know there whether you are looking at undergraduate or graduate financing. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm seeing mostly here undergraduate financing. Okay, wonderful. Looks like I'm seeing mostly undergrad. Great. Thank you all so much for letting me know that. That just helps me to tailor this presentation so that I'm talking about the things that are interesting and necessary for you. And undergrad is where I have most of my background, although my husband is in graduate program right now. So I'm glad to see that a lot of you are here for undergraduate college financing help. So some other things to speak about. This is being recorded. Of course, you heard the lovely woman's voice at the beginning. This is being recorded and it will be sent to you all and it will be kept on our YouTube channel at my HBCU on YouTube. And that way you can rewatch it if you need to go back. Maybe there's a part where you had to get up and step away. You can always come back to the recording. And that way, if you do have any questions that come up in the future, you know where to go to get those answered. And we do have a survey at the end of our presentation today that I asked you just fill out for us so that we continue making these presentations a success. It's a 5-question survey. I promise it won't take long, but we'll appreciate you doing that for us. The Employees Credit Union is Harvard's not-for-profit financial institution. If you are a member, thank you so much for being a member. And if you're not a member, know that you're eligible to become a member. And we really do believe that we have everything that a bank has. Think credit cards, checking accounts, savings accounts, loans. But we believe we do it better. And I really do believe in this business model of a credit union, which is member owned and member controlled. At the end of the day, everyone at the credit union answers to our members. And I think that's a really special type of bond that we have with our members. So if you have any questions about membership at the credit union, I'm happy to help with those as well. But if there's anything I can do to help in regards to getting products or services through the credit union, please just let me know. But that's all I'll mention about the credit union for now. Getting into our topic. If you have any questions throughout our time today or any comments, please don't hesitate to share those through the Q&A feature. I do ask that you share them through the Q&A and not through the chat, as it's easier for me to see and for me to answer and me to make sure that I'm answering those questions. So if you could through the Q&A, that's best. Talking more about college financing. Hopefully at this point, there's been a couple of things that you all have done. If this is your student's senior year. If they are a junior or below, know that these are going to be things that you're coming up on. First is going to be the Fafsa. I'm sure you've heard so many stories about the Fafsa, most of them probably bad. to be honest. But the FAFSA is the federal application for free application for federal student aid. And this is, at this point, almost required by all universities and colleges that your student is possibly going to. And this is open every year, October 1st, for students to fill out for the coming year. So if your student will be a senior in 2022, fall of 2022, they will fill out the FAFSA for the next year, starting in October. And this is a form that's sent to all colleges and universities that the student is interested in applying to. And this way they can just see any of your tax information, income levels, as well as other students in college. The FAFSA is changing just a little bit for this next school year. So if you filled it out prior for other students or other children, know that it may look a little bit different. And hopefully more user-friendly. That is something they're always striving for. And to be honest, it's changed a lot since I remember filling it out first. Previously, you had to type in all of your tax information by hand. Luckily, they now have an IRS tax retrieval tool. So I highly recommend using that tool if you're able to. But like I said, each year it does come out October 1st. I normally recommend filling it out October 2nd, only because they normally can work out any bugs that they have on October 1st. So you'll fill it out October 2nd and there won't be any issues. You may have other financial aid forms to fill out. And the FAFSA is kind of the premier form that most folks do ask for. And it is not required that you fill that out, but it is highly, highly, highly encouraged. I would tell my students, the only people that I see not filling out the FAFSA and not being a good strategy for is folks like Bill Gates, but anything else that could possibly help you. With other aid forms, there are a couple of different forms that are becoming more popular, one being the CSS profile. This is run through the College Board, as you can see here, the same people who run the SAT and many other tests, but the CSS profile is used by many different universities and colleges to just get additional information that maybe the FAFSA doesn't tell folks right off the bat. It is not used by all colleges and universities, but some universities and colleges do ask for the CSS. So it is something to look out for when you're perusing colleges or looking for those for your students. You can ask the question, do you all need the CSS profile? Other colleges and universities have their own form that they fill out. Unfortunately, financial aid is not a one thing fits all. Universities wish it would be, but some universities do ask for an additional form. I know for my husband, when we filled out his graduate school application, there was an additional form just asking us about our assets and different things of that nature, any investments, things that maybe the FAFSA doesn't have a clear picture of just yet. Now getting into the award letter. So hopefully if your student is a junior or below, that is something they will fill out. And we do have an applying for financial aid session coming up, I believe in the fall, in September. So if you want more information about what goes into the FAFSA or any other information about the FAFSA in particular, sign up for that one. But let's say that your students have filled that out, they've gotten accepted to some schools and colleges, and now they're receiving their award letters. Award letters normally come nowadays, they come via email in their student portal. I know for my institution, we would still send out a big kind of booklet with more information about their award letter. And so look for it in the mail, but more than likely it's going to be via email and on their portal as well. There really are three buckets of financial aid when you're looking at an award letter. The first being federal work study. This is its own special category because it's a little complicated. Based on information from the FAFSA, a financial aid office may offer federal work study. This is a program where students can find a job on campus and then work prescribed hours, whatever they've decided with their manager, and receive a check every 2 weeks, biweekly normally. And this does not come directly off of their tuition bill. This is just like a regular job. They get paid, and students can put it towards tuition if they'd like to. Most students don't. I know in my family, what we worked out was that it kind of paid for my outside essentials, right? If I needed gas, if I wanted to go eat out with my friends, I could take some of that federal work study money and use it for that. It is not a guaranteed offer of employment. Just because you have federal work study on your award letter does not mean that your student has a job automatically. They have to work with normally the Career Services Office or the Office of Federal Work Study to find a job. There are so many jobs on many college campuses. I'm sure that was a highlight of a lot of tours that you've been on, is how many jobs there are available on campus. But know that for federal work study, it's not a guaranteed offer of employment. It just means that there are jobs out there that will be able to pay them through a federal pool of money. Loans are another type of financial aid. Your award letter will contain only federal student loan options available for students. Your loan, your aid letter will not contain any information about private student loans, or it shouldn't, because this is what they're telling you about what's available through the federal government. And then any grants or scholarships. This is normally the best part to talk about because this is the free money, as I like to say. Some folks like to say the earned money, because this is the money that your student has earned either through merit-based scholarships, talent-based scholarships, athletic-based scholarships. And this is the money you don't have to pay back to anyone and you don't have to work for, right? Unless it is an athletic-based scholarship, which those athletes are working extremely hard to earn that. So let's go into a little bit more information about need versus merit-based. Talking first about need-based aid. Need-based aid is a lot like what it sounds like. It is based specifically and only on a family's financial need. More than likely, to receive any need-based aid, you have to fill out the Fafsa. You are going to have to fill out a form to receive any need-based aid. It includes grants. There are federal grants. Some schools have grants based on need, loans, and work study. So your federal loans are based on your need, as well as your work study eligibility. All of that is based on need. All federal aid. There is no merit-based federal aid. The government isn't choosing the smartest students and deciding who gets money. They are only basing it on family need. And a lot of state aid is also based on need. So that is something to note, is that federal and some state aid is based on need. For merit-based, this is always recognition-based, whether that be athletic, musical, academic. I think it's wonderful to grant students merit-based aid because it just shows them how wonderful they are. A lot of times this aid is based on comparison to others in their class. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have a student who has a 3.9 GPA and a 32 ACT score. And then we have another student who has a 3.6 GPA and a 30 ACT score. They may be getting two different amounts of merit-based aid based on the comparison with each other. Sometimes our aid numbers will change a little bit based on the type of class that's being recruited to the university. Not all merit-based aid is renewable. It's a good question to ask your financial aid officer or your admissions officer. Is this renewable for all 4 years? Something to note as well. It may take some students longer than 4 years to complete undergraduate education. So how long is this merit-based aid applicable? And if they do happen to go into a 5th or 6th year, how will we pay for that? It's just something to note and something to ask. A lot of times the larger merit-based aid scholarships that you may receive from private institutions are going to automatically be renewable because there is, such a difference in the amount you'd be paying from year to year, and they would rather keep students at their university than have that volatility in aid. But still a good question to ask and to clarify. Moving on to federal grants and scholarships. Again, federal grants and scholarships are all need-based aid. So you'll see here that there are a lot of options. The one that I saw most with students was the federal Pell grant. And they are expanding the opportunity for folks to receive the federal Pell grant and hopefully receive even a little more money. And of course, this is all based on the information from the Fafsa. That is how the federal government awards these grants. And you can see here there are other more niche grants as well for those going into teaching profession or who've previously served in Iraq or Afghanistan. Now, there are 3 different types of student loans that we're going to speak about today. The first being federal, like we've talked about in the past. These are based on the FAFSA. They are also need-based. Direct subsidized and unsubsidized, that is specifically undergraduate. Graduate schools do not have any unsubsidized subsidized loans. Perkins Loan, the Perkins Loan is being phased out, and it's all being focused on the direct subsidized and unsubsidized. So you may or may not see the Perkins Loan, but it is being phased out slowly. And the plus loans that may be available to you if you do need additional loans. State loans, I know there were state loans for the state that I previously worked in, and it was kind of a lottery system. If you qualified, they only had so much money. So they then would say, okay, the first, we'll kind of pick numbers out of a hat if you apply for this money. So that's something to note, and a reason why it is important to really look at all of these due dates and stay organized. But some states offer student loans for residents or for students studying in their state. It's important to look up all the details for your own state, and you can most of the time find these on the education website through the state. And then there's also private student loans. Private student loans are offered by private companies. These are credit unions. We have student loans at the credit union. Banks, universities, and schools sometimes have their own private loans, and then other private companies. You've heard of Sallie Mae. That's a large private company that offers student loans. So there's a wide variety of student loans offered privately. Let's dig into federal loans first. I'm just going to put everything up on the screen. I like to see it all so I know what I'm speaking about and to make sure I'm not skipping ahead to any slides. Federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. These are formerly called Stafford loans. Not much has changed about these, but the name, the Stafford loan, I know when my older siblings were in school, it was Stafford, and they moved on to direct loans. And now they are referred to as federal direct loans. The student is the borrower on these loans. So there is no credit check because it is probably difficult to credit check a 17 or 18-year-old. These loans are just offered to students from the federal government, and it is in their name. So it does help to build their credit if that's something you're looking into. Subsidized loans are only available to qualifying undergraduates. The difference between the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan is that the subsidized loan is available for lower income students, and this loan does not accrue interest while the student is in school. Whereas with the unsubsidized loan, the loan is accruing interest from the date you take it out. So all 4 years that you'd be in your institution. And they are only available, those subsidized are only available to undergraduates. You can defer paying on your student loans while you're enrolled in school at least half time. Of course, right now, everyone is in deferment on their student loans. There's a 0% interest rate right now. This is a great time to be a holder of some federal student loans. And highly recommend if you're paying on those student loans right now, maybe you hold off for a while. They've just released all of their media that they have been pushed back again to the end of September to begin paying on those once more. So it's great to be in deferment. The grace period, after graduating, you have 6 months to begin making your payments. You can begin paying on them earlier. You can pay them the day you take them out if you'd like to, but you do have 6 months to begin paying. This is in hopes that you'll find a position, the student will find a position or a job, and they'll be able to begin paying those back. If the student decides to go to graduate school or professional school of some type and they're enrolled at least half time, then they do have the ability to defer paying those until after they finish with school. Your rates are based off of when you borrowed the loan. So students who go to school for 4 years, their undergraduate program for 4 years, they will have 4 different rates based on when they took out that loan. The rates change every year. So I can't guarantee a number that will be all 4 years. But that specific loan will have that specific interest rate, and then next year's loan will have a different interest rate, more than likely. Of course, they can keep them the same, but more than likely there will be a little bit of a difference in between the 2 years. So what's available to students? All first-year students are all first-year dependent students, let me make that clear. They are awarded $5,500 worth of direct loans. Students who qualify for subsidized loans can qualify for up to $3,500 of that $5,500 being subsidized loans, and then the additional $2,000 being unsubsidized. Every student, no matter their income level, qualifies for $5,500 worth of federal student loans. Most students receive $5,500 worth of unsubsidized loans. You'll see here the column in the middle is for independent students. I'm assuming that no one on this call has an independent student who's been emancipated. That is the only way you can receive independent student loan status. So we're going to focus right on the dependent status there. And you'll see that each year you can receive more in that federal loan. This is in hopes that students kind of understand more what this means as they continue growing up a little bit, and are able to really think through what is the best option for me. Something that I want to point out that you'll see here on your screen, you'll see my mouse, the entire total amount that students are able to take out for their undergraduate studies from the federal government is a total of $31,000. Many people, I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of stories of folks saying, you know, I've in $200,000 worth of debt, I'm in $150,000 worth of debt. And something to note is that even if they took out every single federal loan available to them through the Fafsa, they would only be in debt by $31,000. Of course, this isn't thinking about interest or anything of that nature, but more than likely they have other loans that aren't federal student loans from their undergraduate career. So it's just something to think about, and something to note that if you need federal student loans, that is what they are there for. Moving on to graduate students, I know most folks on this presentation talked about needing information on undergraduate loans, but just in case your student wants to move on to graduate school, they can receive unsubsidized loans from the federal government up to $20,000 per year. This number does change, so you may see it change a little bit in the coming years. Now let's get into the facts of each of these loans. I have just updated these numbers this morning, so these are the most current numbers that I could find. Remember that on all federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans, the student is the borrower and there's no credit check required. For the undergrad, direct subsidized and unsubsidized, it's a 3.73% fixed rate for this year. This is for any loans that are taken out from July, this past July until this July. And then the graduate rate is about 2% higher than that at 5.28%. There is that 6-month grace period, and there is a loan origination fee. A lot of folks don't look at this number before they take out the loan, and they wonder why there's a fee charged. It is because there is a 1.057% fee on any loan taken out through the federal direct program. So just something to note that this fee will be charged on your account, and it is important to know that. Obviously, 1.057 isn't a huge amount, but it is noticeable for folks. Now we have a different type of loan. This is the Federal Plus and the Graduate Plus loans. I'm going to speak directly to the Plus on the first side, just because most of the folks on our webinar today are interested in undergraduate. So this is sometimes known as the Parent Plus loan, and that is because the parent is the borrower. The parent is the borrower on the Federal Parent Plus loan. The student has to complete the Fafsa to be eligible to receive this, and you have to apply for this additional funding through the Plus loan application. And the parent will have the credit check. It will be a credit check on the parent's credit report. So the ability to receive this is based on the parent's credit. So some students, when they apply for this, they try to apply for it in their name. And unfortunately, that is just not how this loan works. It has to be through the parent that receives this loan. There is no grace period with this loan. You can request it. Most parents seem to request this to start 6 months after they finish college, but your payment will start immediately. The interest rate here is going to be a little bit higher because it is in addition to that regular loan that you see is 6.28%, still a pretty good rate, but I want to encourage to shop around, whether it be through the federal government or through private lenders. There could be options out there. If you have great credit, there could be options out there for a cheaper interest rate through a private institution. So just something to think about. And with the Graduate Plus loan, you see there, now that the student is either 22, 23, 24, so on and so forth, this would be in the student's name, and it would be a credit check on their credit report if they were to take out the Graduate Plus loan. So that's just for graduate school. It is so important that students keep up with the deadlines. My institution, we had a hard stop on May 1st. We couldn't add additional aid to students' award letters after May 1st. And it was unfortunate having conversations with people after that date, letting them know, unfortunately, that deadline has passed. So know those deadlines. Each school, different deadlines, because, I mean, who could get that many colleges and universities together to set a deadline? So I highly recommend that you keep an organized list of all the deadlines for the schools that your student is interested in. You do have to complete the FAFSA each year that you're in school. Every year. I know that there are probably many financial aid professionals out there who've set many registration holds on sophomore, junior, senior accounts because they haven't done the FAFSA just yet. So reminder just to do that every year, and your student will be reminded many times via email, probably from their institution, to fill it out, but something to remember, every year you must fill it out. So like I said, that's more federal. Those are things coming directly from the federal government. Now let's talk a little bit more about private student loans. I'm going to throw this out there right now. There is no standard for private student loans. I cannot tell you all private student loans will work this way. I just can't, because that'd be like telling you all home loans work this way. That's just not true, right? We know that. And it's the same with private student loans. There are many options. I mean, I could do a quick Google search and I'd probably have like 5.2 million hits on that search for private student loans because there are so many options, including your financial institution. That's normally where I tell people to start. Start with your financial institution if you're interested in a private student loan and see what options they have and go from there. That way you have a baseline to compare and you kind of know what to expect. The terms vary based on lender. There could be a grace period with this lender and there could not be one with the next. One thing that I will say, there are potential benefits with some of these loans. Cosigner release options. So let's say that you want to get a private student loan in your student's name, but they don't have credit history. You could co-sign onto that loan. And once they make a certain number of payments, you're able to be released from that loan, which is a good thing. And then interest rate reduction with auto pay or prior relationship. A lot of financial institutions will have that. If you already have a product with them and now you're getting this second product, they will possibly lower your interest rate. I know at the credit union, we do have interest rate reduction with auto pay because we know if you're automatically paying us every month, we're going to get our money. So we will happily lower your interest rate for that reason. So just know that private student loans are an option. And you don't have to take out exorbitant amounts of private student loan. If you just need a few $1,000s, that is okay. There are private lenders out there that can help. Else will be on the award letter, the academic year, enrollment status, whether they've paid their deposit or not, their housing status, probably more information where you can find different links, and then contact information. This is probably the most important piece of the puzzle, the contact information for either the financial aid office or their counselor or their admissions counselor or someone to talk to at the university so they can go more in detail with you. I wouldn't hesitate to ask folks questions at the institutions. That's their job. That is part of the reason they are paid money, right? To answer your questions. So every school can have so many differences in their award letter process, but most of the time you'll see these go out around March, April, which is why we're having these conversations now. But you'll see that award letters vary drastically from one university to the next. So let's get into comparing awards. There's a very magical special number called cost of attendance. Each university is federally required to put on their website their cost of attendance. It may be hidden, but they're federally required to do it. The cost of attendance includes all of those directly billed costs, which are things like tuition, room and board, any lab fees, those types of things, plus indirect costs. These are things that you're not going to be paying the school for necessarily, but you will be paying for while your student is in school. Transportation to and from campus, personal expenses like, going shopping on the weekends, needing things like toothpaste, all of that good stuff, and then books as well. Technically, you're not paying the school directly for books. You are paying some other vendor for those things, but they're included in the cost of attendance. So if you take the billed costs with the indirect costs and add them together, that is what you get with the cost of attendance. Many schools and colleges, their cost of attendance is much higher than any person at their university actually pays. I remember speaking with students, and our cost of attendance was about $60,000 a year. And 99% of our students did not pay that price to come to our school. It was very odd to find someone who actually paid that much money, right? And these vary widely from college to college. Here in the Northeast, many schools and universities are extremely expensive compared to schools in many other places. In-state is very different than out-of-state tuition. So you'll see the cost of attendance change widely based on the school that you're applying to. So let's compare a few of these awards And you'll see here that the cost of attendance for each of these schools is the same. The cost of attendance for each of these schools is $50,000. The EFC is $10,000. The EFC is the estimated family contribution. And this is a number you receive from the Fafsa. This is not the number you'll be paying to go to school, but this is what they believe your family can contribute to put you in school. So the need here is $40,000. And if you have more questions about how financial aid offices get through these numbers and get to them, please sign up for our presentation in the fall on applying for financial aid, because we do walk through that. You'll see here that College A has awarded $18,000 in grants and scholarships, $5,500 in student loans, and $1,500 in work study. Two things to point out to you across the board. Student loans are the exact same number at every single college and university. Like I said, that is one thing that you'll know exactly what that number will be at every college and university, and it's going to be $5,500. Work study can change between each university and college. The amount that each university and college is given for federal work study changes. And so they're able to provide this estimate of what a student could earn up to, what they could earn up to in their federal work study job. Does it mean that they'll make $1,500 right on the dot? It does not. It does not. It is based on the time that they work and the paycheck that they receive every 2 weeks. And the grants and scholarships, of course, are different for each school. They're compared based on their own classes, right? And so we see here the total aid awarded for each school. College A, perfect. We've got a lot of total aid awarded at College A, and less on College C. And College B is somewhere in the middle. But let's think about the true cost. So here we see that the build costs of each college are a little bit different, ranging from $50,000 to $20,000. College A, we're probably gonna, we're thinking College A is probably a pretty nice private school, nice dorms, nice meal plan that everyone has to be on and you can't get out of. And then there's College C, which is probably more of a public school, maybe in-state for these students. So you'll see here now that grants and scholarships across the board are the same as the previous example. Student loans, everywhere gives $5,500. Work study is a little bit different at each university. So total aid, so we add up those things and subtract it. So at College A, they've been given $25,000. College B, they've been given $22,000, and College C, $17,000. So your tuition bill, what you would be paying the school, ends up to be this. Now, I'm sure you're telling me, Sarah, $50,000 minus $25,000 is not $26,500. You'd be correct. The reason that this isn't wrong, I want to make sure that you know I'm pretty good at math. The reason this isn't wrong is because we're not including work study in this tuition bill number. And why is that? Because your work study money does not come directly off your tuition bill. Just like we spoke about in the very beginning. That $1,500 that you're seeing from College A and that $2,000 from College B and $1,000 from College C, that does not come directly off your tuition bill. So what you would be paying in tuition is listed there. The true cost. This is when we add back in our loans, because at some point we will be paying those back, right? $4,500 sounds pretty good, but that's because we've used our $5,500 in student loans. And so it's important to add that back into your calculations. Your student will be paying that back. And then what I like to show folks is the true cost for 4 years. We're not just paying for our student to go to school 1 year. We're paying all 4. So this is really how you can line it up. And this is a good example of how this would work if you're comparing 3 or 4 different schools. Really line it up like this and see that true cost. And maybe seeing those really big numbers made you have a little bit of anxiety, and I hope it didn't. But Green Path Financial Wellness is a nonprofit partner of ours that we pay for so that it's free to everyone on this call today. They do budget counseling, credit report review, as well as debt repayment counseling and federal student loan counseling. I highly recommend giving them a call if this is something you want to talk about. How do I budget to pay for these things in the future? Maybe this is a good conversation to have with them. And like I said, they're free for you to use because we pay for them at the credit union. And so it's not like just a random service that we are recommending. This is something that is free for you and a really, really high level of service for you. Conversation and looking at those really large numbers, now I get to have the conversation about reducing costs. How do we bring this cost down? Ask about options, room and board options. Maybe your student can live at home and save some money for a few years. There may be a health insurance fee. And if you have health insurance and your student is on that health insurance plan with you, you are normally able to waive the fee. The kicker, there is always an extremely hard deadline on waiving this health insurance fee. I've known many people who have lived to tell the tale of forgetting to waive the health insurance fee and their parents not being happy with them or them not being happy with themselves. So it's important that you understand what is that health insurance fee and when should I be able to waive it. Maybe there's sibling discounts. These are being phased out at most universities these days. But if you have more than one student at that school, there may be a possibility of a discount. Know that there is academic planning. Maybe your student has access to a dual enrollment at their high school where they can be enrolled in a community college in their area and take some transfer credits and then transfer those over to a university once they begin their 4 years. There's a possibility of graduating early if students work really hard. I know students that didn't take a break. They always took summer classes. They were taking a full load fall and spring. And there are very special students who are able to do this and still enjoy their time at college. And I don't recommend this type of plan for every student because there are some students who need the experience that college brings. And so this is for a very special type of student. And then student scholarships, RA scholarships, normally these pay for your room and board and a meal plan. So I highly recommend if your student is a sophomore or older, there may be opportunities for them to join the residence life team. And then some universities will give special scholarships for returning students. Maybe it's an award from a specific office on campus or concentration. Maybe their major has a specific scholarship available. So you can have them reach out to their financial aid office and ask, or just ask around, see if other students are receiving different types of scholarships. Private scholarships, what I call outside scholarships, but these scholarships are available to all students at any institution. If you have a junior, a sophomore, this is a great time to start looking at private scholarships that they may want to apply for in the years to come. Applying for these scholarships should be free. That is a hard and fast rule. Do not pay to apply to any of these scholarships, and always check with your school counselor before applying to any scholarship that you may have questions about. Where do you get these ideas? School counselors are your first best bet because they will have a list of scholarships that students have won previously from outside sources, that students have won from that high school in years prior. That's a great resource because that means that someone in your school did win that award. Online search engines, many people use FastWeb to look up, or Scholarly, which is an app that students can use. These can be extremely overwhelming. So I don't recommend this being your first place to go, but it is kind of fun to look around. Place of employment, Here at the credit union, we offer a private scholarship for students, $1,000 for their first year. And that really helps with things like books and transportation costs, those indirect costs that we may not always think about. But maybe where you work, here at Harvard, there may be opportunities for that, or maybe where your spouse works or partner. The place of employment can be a good thing. City and town of residence, your city probably has a scholarship opportunity for them, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce or something of that nature. And then financial institutions, this is a little plug for our scholarship. If the parent or guardian is a member or the student themselves are a member, they are welcome to apply for this scholarship. It has been closed for this year and we've chosen our 10 winners for this. But next year it will open back up probably in January. And those will be due at the end of February, those applications. But if you're not a member of the credit union, there are many other financial institutions that offer great scholarships as well. I asked to put this slide in this presentation, and I think it's because this is an experience that I had when I was looking for schools. I grew up in a college town, loved that university, loved the college. My entire family went there. Everybody from my high school went there. And for me, it was the cheapest option. But I knew more about myself, right? That I was not going to be successful at a large state school, which is the college in my town was. And I knew more about myself. I needed that smaller environment. I needed more hands-on approach. And so we ended up going with the school that was more expensive. And I understand that that is a privilege. What I'm saying is very privileged. But for me, it was about experiencing that and growing up in that way that I believe led to my later success in life, right? And it's really about comparing those experiences, of course, within reason. We can't make everything happen. We can't just pull out, $60,000 a year. We don't all have access to that. None of us on this call probably do. But compare those experiences and don't just make your decision alone on money. Notice where your student is most comfortable and most excited about. That is worth something. So before we wrap up our presentation, we've got about 10-ish minutes for questions that I'm happy to look through. So start submitting any questions that you may have. But some steps to success: be organized. This is the number one for a reason, because I just gave out a lot of information. But one of the most important things I said was to know the deadlines. You've got to keep yourself organized, your student organized. This is a really good project for a student to take on as they're becoming more of an adult. It's time to start giving them the responsibility of knowing when those due dates are. Understand your award. You should know what your student is signing up for before they step foot on campus. I can't tell you the number of people I've spoken to that said, I had no idea that I signed up for a student loan before I went to school. They had no idea. And that, of course, some of that is on them, I think. But it is important to know what you're signing up for and know the parameters around paying those things back. And then compare total costs. Just compare those apples to apples. Get the cost of attendance, the directly billed, and what awards they're receiving. And compare those things. College isn't just about the cost. It can be more than that. And then research ways to reduce costs. Find ways to save as much as you can. Private scholarships are a great way to start. I love to tell stories about the craziest outside scholarships I've seen. I saw one for people from North Carolina, received a scholarship to go to a school in Massachusetts. That was specifically for a graduate program, but it was very specific, and it paid all of their tuition. I know people who have won the Taco Bell scholarship by making a social media video, which is pretty cool. They really enjoyed that project. And then on top of that, they won money. So Today, I just got to award a few middle schoolers with scholarships for when they go off to college through an essay contest. So like I said, it's time to start looking if your student is a sophomore or junior and just have them on the radar. Like I said earlier, we'd love for you to go ahead and fill out a survey for us. It's at huecu.org/survey. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat for everyone so that you have the ability to click on that. But this way, you can let us know how we did today and if there are any questions that you have or something that you'd like for us to cover in the future. And like I said, we do have a couple more in our series for the college financing series. Coming up, we have applying for financial aid, student loan repayment, and then I believe we also have one on paying the tuition bill in July, which will give a little more insight into best practices for paying the tuition bill. So let us know in our survey how we can be of help in the future and what you may like to see in our next presentations. Of course, this is a general overview. I am not a tax advisor, legal advisor, or investment advisor. Please don't take that advice from me. Please do take it from those professionals, those that are certified to give that information. But of course, everything was for illustrative purposes, and none of this specifically talks to any of your situations. Please follow us on our social media channels. This is where we really keep up with the community and what's going on. We do a lot of giveaways. So if you're interested in, I think last week we had a Foodie Friday where there was a gift card to a bakery. So highly recommend following us on social media. We'd love to have you visit us there and follow us along. But of course, if there are any questions about membership, I'm happy to answer those as well. We do have a few more minutes on our time today. So if there are questions, I don't see any right now, but if you do have a question, you can put that in the Q&A. I will see if there are any questions within the next about 30 seconds. If you're typing, let me know, but I'll see if there are any questions. And if not, then we'll go ahead and conclude a little bit early. But I do want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you being here and being excited about learning more about this process that can be overwhelming and confusing. But I hope you know that you have a partner here at the credit union to help you with these questions and point you in the right direction. And I hope if there's anything that we can do for you in the future that you reach out. But it's been wonderful to have you today.